Before we start, let me ask you something. What if you could improve your English just by listening to a story? No pressure. No boring rules. Welcome to Eglish Error Lab. Here, you learn English through meaningful stories. So relax, listen carefully, and let the story begin. My name is Mira. I was 19 years old when my life changed forever. Tonight, I want to tell you the story of my married first night. A night that I will never forget. Most people imagine a wedding night as a dream. Soft lights, rose petals, gentle music, love that feels warm and exciting. Every girl in my town imagined it that way. But my married first night was nothing like that. The white bed in the room didn't feel soft or welcoming. It looked like a grave. And the man standing across from me, my husband, didn't feel like the person I had dreamed of. I thought he was my owner. I thought I was trapped. I was standing in a heavy white dress, my heart racing so fast I felt it might burst from my chest. I was alone with a man I barely knew. A man people described as cold, dangerous, and unkind. To understand that night, you need to know how it began. It all started 3 weeks before the wedding in 1981. My life had been simple and quiet. I worked at a small bookshop near the old market. I loved reading novels, drinking tea, and imagining a life far beyond my small town. I dreamed of walking along the ocean, of someone writing me letters filled with love. But life doesn't always care about dreams. One Tuesday evening, I returned home from work and felt something was wrong immediately. The house was too quiet. The kitchen smelled of stale coffee and smoke. My father sat at the wooden table, his head buried in his hands. His shoulders shook as he sobbed, and I had never seen him cry before. "Papa," I whispered. He looked up at me. His eyes were red, his face pale and weary. On the table lay a brown envelope. "I'm sorry, Mira," he said. "I've ruined everything." "What happened?" My stomach tightened. "I gambled," he admitted. "I lost everything, the money, the business, even the house. There's nothing left. I can't breathe. We're going to lose it all." The weight of those words pressed on me like a heavy stone. This house had been the last memory of my mother. Losing it was unimaginable. "How much?" I asked. He whispered a number that made my knees go weak. It was impossible to repay. He looked at me desperately. "There is a way," he said. "But it's not easy." I already had an idea. "Adrian Hale," he said quietly. "He bought the debt." Everyone in our town knew the name Adrian Hale. He was 30 years old, wealthy, and feared by everyone. They said he had no heart, that he destroyed businesses without blinking, that he was ruthless. "What does he want?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. My father looked at the floor. "He wants a wife," he admitted. The words hit me like a thunderclap. My mind spun. "You sold me," I whispered. "I saved us," he cried. "It's the only way. Please, Mira, do it for your mother's house." I ran to my room, crying until my body felt empty. I wanted to pack my bag and run far away. But when I looked at my mother's photos on the wall, I couldn't leave my father homeless. I wiped my tears and whispered to myself, "Goodbye, Mira." I decided to sacrifice myself. I decided to marry the man everyone called a monster. The wedding arrived faster than I expected. The sun was hot that July day. The church was packed with strangers, businessmen, wealthy families, faces I had never seen before. Everyone smiled and congratulated me, but none of them saw the fear in my eyes. Before the ceremony, Adrian's mother approached me. A tall woman with a stiff face, she did not hug me. Instead, she opened a velvet box and placed a heavy gold necklace around my neck. "This is a family heirloom," she said coldly. "Do not lose it. It is worth more than your life." The metal felt cold against my skin. Heavy, sharp. Not jewelry, but a chain that I walked down the aisle, every step making the necklace press deeper into my collarbone. At the end stood Adrian, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing black. His face was serious. His eyes didn't smile. His jaw was tight. He doesn't want me, I thought. He just bought me because he needs an heir. When we exchanged vows, his voice was flat. I do. It sounded like a contract, not a promise. When he kissed me, it was brief and dry. No warmth, no affection. After the ceremony, we entered his car. It was a long black luxury vehicle. The driver opened the doors, and the rich smell of leather and old cigars filled the air. Adrian sat on one side. I pressed myself against the window on the other. The ride was silent, complete silence. I wanted to speak, but my throat was dry. I watched him from the corner of my eye. He stared out the window, hand resting on his knee. Big, strong hands, but tense. I felt panic rise in me. For the first time, he turned to look at me. I thought he would yell, but he only sighed and looked away. He's already tired of me, I thought. He finds me annoying. We arrived at his house. It was huge, like a castle in a movie. Gray stone, tall windows, marble floors, high ceilings. Beautiful, yes, but cold and unwelcoming. No servants were in sight. Just us. I felt small, like a prisoner stepping into a cell. "Upstairs," he said, his voice low. "Your bedroom." I nodded silently. Every step on the wide staircase brought me closer to the moment I feared the most. My married first night. We entered the bedroom. It was enormous, with a massive bed in the center covered in red silk. To me it looked like blood. Then I heard it. Click. Adrian locked the door. My blood froze. My heart raced. The silence felt like a countdown. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I backed against the wall, holding my breath. My wedding night, my married first night, had begun in fear. I stood frozen, pressed against the wall, my heart pounding in my chest. The heavy red bed in front of me, the locked door behind me, and Adrian's serious expression filled me with fear. This was my married first night, and it felt like a nightmare. I closed my eyes, expecting him to move toward me, expecting the worst. But instead I heard his soft voice. "Mira," he said. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't trust myself to. My chest was tight, my hands shaking. "Shoo, it's okay. Stay still," he whispered. His hands moved carefully, not touching my dress, not touching me. They were on the necklace. He was removing it. "This is hurting you," he said gently. I opened my eyes slowly. The heavy chain fell into his hand with a soft clink. For the first time that night I could breathe. You didn't hurt me," I whispered. He looked surprised. Then something softer appeared in his eyes, a look I hadn't seen before. "I never bought you, Mira," he said quietly. "Your father saved my father's life years ago. He refused my help unless it came with honor. This marriage, it was his way to protect your family." I stared at him, stunned. My fear started to crumble. The monster I had imagined was not standing in front of me. He was human. He was real. And he had feelings too. My stomach growled. I realized I hadn't eaten anything all day. My face burned with embarrassment. Adrian's lips curved into a small smile for the first time. "You're hungry," he said simply. I nodded, unsure of how to respond. "Wait here," he said. He unlocked the door and disappeared. 5 minutes later, he returned, holding a small plate with 2 simple sandwiches and 2 glasses of milk. No fancy food, no expensive dishes, just plain, honest care. We sat on the floor in our wedding clothes. The silk of my dress pressed against my skin, and his suit felt stiff and formal, but for the first time that night, I felt normal. "I hate this dress," I admitted, trying to smile. "I hate this suit," he said, chewing his sandwich. Then he chuckled softly. "I can't breathe in it." For a moment, the fear lifted. The tension faded as we talked quietly. "I'm afraid of spiders," he said suddenly. I laughed, a real laugh, for the first time all day. "The big, ruthless businessman is afraid of spiders?" He grinned, showing the corner of a softer, more human side I had never seen before. "Terrified," he admitted. We talked for an hour. About books, the ocean, his childhood, the silence of this big house, and my dreams. Each word, each laugh, each shared story chipped away at the wall of fear between us. Eventually, Adrian stood up. He looked at the massive red bed and said firmly, "You take the bed. Where will you sleep?" I asked, surprised. He pointed to the velvet sofa in the corner. "I fit there perfectly," he said. Then, looking me directly in the eye, he added, "This is your room, but more importantly, you are my wife, not my prisoner. We have time. We have a lifetime. I won't touch you until you ask me to." I felt a warmth in my chest. Relief. Safety. Something I had never felt in that room before. That night, I slept alone in the large red bed. The door remained unlocked. Across the room, Adrian slept on the sofa, his breathing slow and steady. For the first time in weeks, the knot in my stomach disappeared. I realized something important. The heavy gold necklace, the contract, the debt, they didn't bind me. What binds 2 people together is not a promise on paper or a chain of gold. It is respect, trust, safety. I learned that night that real love is not about control. It is about protecting someone's peace, about listening, about being patient. The next morning, we shared a simple breakfast together. Adrian made tea, and I laughed at how clumsy he was in the kitchen. We talked about small things, about the sun shining on the balcony, about a cat he had as a child, about my favorite books. Slowly, the house didn't feel like a cold, scary castle anymore. It felt like the beginning of something new. Over the weeks and months that followed, Adrian and I grew closer. Our trust built slowly, step by step. Every moment of fear was replaced with understanding. Every silence became a shared comfort. Now, 50 years later, Adrian is still my best friend. He still fears spiders. He still makes me laugh. And I will never forget that first night. Not for the fear, but for the lesson it taught me. Love begins with safety, with respect, and with care. If your heart was touched by this story, remember, your body is yours. Your fear is valid. A real man does not use power to control. He uses it to protect. True love waits. It listens. And sometimes it begins quietly with a sandwich, a conversation, and a promise of safety.